close. I could. Can't do
Hey man, Moot, what's got you so down?
It's magic, man. It's just bad now.
Have you ever thought maybe it's not magic that's bad? Not magic that's bad. Not magic that's bad. Not magic that's bad.
The statement assumes you already paid the December balance.
Have you ever thought maybe it's not magic that's bad?
It doesn't care about anything past the snap.
Have you ever thought maybe it's not magic that's bad?
Because that's not on the statement. It's not real yet.
Have you ever Hey man, I want to play a game of magic before you leave tonight.
Sure. I like that.
So with the underworld breach resolving, I'm gonna win from here.
Chief, this game. What's up, Planeswalkers? How you doing? How you doing? I have
ascended.
How? Well, sit down, because before I get into today's deck, it's story time. You see, I was playing Commander with some good friends, and suddenly it struck me. Captain America for 21 Commander. But that isn't important. It made me think this game is too violent. And like a concerned mom of a young gamer, I'm making it my problem. So today's deck is not for the faint of heart or the mono red player, it's for the chill players out there. We're going to teach Commander players our non-violent ways by force. So we're looking at Kros, Defense Contractor, a banned and one colorless cat advisor that says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a shield counter on target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you put one or more counters on a creature you don't control, tap that creature and goad it. It gains trample until your next turn. So our commander is about redirecting big stuff away from us so that we can have time to win peacefully. So what does that mean? Let me break this thing down for you. We're playing a Pillow Fort Fog Pile today that's trying to win in ways that don't require combat. Is it competitive? Unless your games look like an arena standard ladder, then no. But it is a fun way to annoy everyone at the table and break the monotony of the game. The last thing to say is the deck is expensive, but it can be made cheaper by changing the mana base around. So the first thing I want to talk about is our card advantage, because we can't keep fogging people if we can't draw our fogs. So starting with our turn 1 plays, we have Esper Sentinel, since most people can't pay the extra tax on their early mana rocks, giving us a few extra cards. Mystic Remora is a much harsher tax on non-creature spells, and similar to the Sentinel, gets worse as the game goes late. And our last tax and draw effect is Rhystic Study, which is a very strong draw engine on its own. Mystical Tutor and Personal Tutor aren't draws, but they are tutors which would find our win cons, and Mystical Tutor can find us a fog worst case scenario. Archmage Emeritus is a house in our deck since we're playing 38 spells, with some of them only being 1 mana, so we should be drawing a lot off this card. Narset Parter of Veils can dig for our fogs, and the static ability is really annoying for our opponents to deal with, and keep in mind our fogs usually can save our planeswalkers as well. Teferi, Master of Time, is yet another annoying planeswalker that can help us loot through our deck, and with it upticking on other people's turns, its ultimate is always a threat. Valakut Recovery gives us a way to get back one of our few win cons, and it can return a fog in a pinch. Barring 100,000 Arrows is a perfect draw spell for a deck trying to bait big swings from our opponents. Lauren Revealed can help us hit our land early, or it is a good draw spell in the late game. Speaking of draw spells, Seagate Restoration is an extremely powerful card that can quickly make a game feel unwinnable for our opponents. Temple Bell might seem like a strange include, but it's part of one of our win cons, and worst case, letting your opponents have extra cards is a good way to get on everyone's good side. The One Ring plays nicely with our fog strategy, and the card draw is hard to beat. Plus, since we don't plan on taking a lot of damage, it's easy for us to trade our life total for cards. Verity's Oracle works well with our commander's ability to draw us extra cards, and it punishes any players with lots of mana dorks. Now that you know we can draw cards, let's talk about how we're going to stay alive. This list is long. These cards are our Fog, Pillow Fort pieces, and counter spells in case we're against combo. Now the reason we included Pillow Fort pieces in our deck is because the best Fog is the one you don't have to cast. We have Swords to Plowshares not necessarily because we're scared of getting hit by a big creature, but more as a way to remove some kind of combo creature like a Kiki-Jiki. Requisition Raid gives us some nice utility. Most of the time we'll always get value from the 2 modes it has, the artifact and enchantment removal. Long River's Pull is a counterspell that really doesn't have a downside since the 1/1 fish won't be an issue for us. Mana Drain gives us enough mana to get down some early Pillow Fort pieces. Narset's Reversal can delay something bad, but we're actually trying to save this card for our Approach of the Second Sun. Reprieve and Endless Detour both share a similar role to the Narset's Reversal, where they can work with our approach, but again, in a bad spot, they will be buying us more time. Endless Detour, of course, has the best utility out of these cards since it would return something from our graveyard to the top of our deck. Sunfall is our first Exile Wrath in case the whole table starts to team up against us, because remember, a Fog only works on a singular turn and we have 3 opponents. Farewell is our other Exile Wrath. This time we can hit other problem permanents. Being on the other end of this card always sucks. Authority of the Consuls is the first threat of our pillow fort, making sure we don't have to worry about haste from our opponents, and the extra life is always nice. Ghostly Prison and Propaganda are practically the same card. They both make attacking us hard, and I can't tell you the number of times I've seen someone run out their spells on their first main phase and forget that they actually need to pay to attack us. Sphere of Safety is the best out of our enchantments that make players pay to attack us, not only because the attacks can be pretty high, but this card also reads Planeswalkers, which means we won't have to fog to save our walkers sometimes. Glacial Chasm is the start of our fogs, but I'm talking about this one first since it's a little different. Unlike the other fogs, this land can make sure we don't have to worry about damage, including burn decks, which would be our worst matchup. The catch is that it costs a land initially and 2 life every upkeep. Now we are playing this card unfairly, but I'll save that for the combo section near the end of the video. The rest of these cards are some flavor of fog with minor differences. Ethereal Haze, Fog, and Holy Day are all 1 mana fogs. Blessed Respike can help us versus mill or ruin a graveyard focused deck's plan. Constant Mist is recurable and we can play lands from our graveyard. Dawn Charm comes with a little bit of utility. Everybody Lives is a fun way to fog certain combos. Lull can be cycled. Moment's Peace comes with flashback for back-to-back fogs. Respite can gain us some life. Tangle might mean that we won't have to cast a fog on the same player the following turn. Obscuring Haze can be a free fog. Prismatic Strands might not fog everything, but sometimes that can work in our advantage, and the flashback should be easy for us to cast with our commander out. Teferi's Protection is another way for us to fog certain combos, but unlike other fogs, this card will not save us from commander damage. Spore Frog and Kamiya False Hope are some fun fogs because sometimes people won't swing at you because the fog is face up, buying us even more time. Or sometimes people will take it as a challenge and swing at you even harder for it. Onto the ramp, we're using Growth Spiral and Planar Genesis as instant speed ways to get more lands on the battlefield, and the bonus with Planar Genesis is we can just grab a different card if we already have enough lands. Running Up Excavator is a way for us to play lands from our graveyard, which goes nicely with our Glacial Chasm and the Constant Mist. Farseek, Nature's Lore, and Rampant Growth grab lands out of our library and put them on the battlefield. Sylvan Scrying won't ramp us, but it does find lands so that we can hit our land drops in a pinch. Otherwise, we're using this to find Glacial Chasm. Cultivate can grab more lands out of the library for us. Conduit of Worlds is another way for us to get lands out of the graveyard, and this time we can use this card to bring back Pillow Fort pieces that we may have lost. It's also worth mentioning that the drawback for this card is pretty fine for our deck since most of the cards we're playing are instant speed. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Midnight Clock are some mana rocks. Exploration is important for our Glacial Chasm loop, and when it's not doing that, it is just giving us extra lands. Wilderness Reclamation untaps our lands on the end step, which is a way to pseudo-ramp us as we can tap out on our turns to play Pillow Fort cards and then keep fogs up for our opponent's turns. Okay, we talked about all the boring stuff. Now let's discuss our value pieces / win cons. First, we have Approach of the Second Sun as a simple spell that we can cast twice to win. All of our delay counter spells work with this card to speed up how fast we can win the game. Nexus Fate can be used to take infinite turns, but we're actually using this card for its shuffle ability since I know you'd be tempted to actually cast one of the Eldrazi Titans and swing with them. We need the shuffle effect for Mind Over Matter, which along with Temple Bell means we can make the whole table draw their decks and lose while we keep discarding our Nexus to ensure that we won't deck ourselves. The Millennium Calendar can actually work with our Mind Over Matter if we have enough mana, but for the most part we're playing this pretty fairly, just hoping to double the counters normally. So for the combo section, I'll show you how we can abuse Glacial Chasm to make killing us impossible with combat. To start, we'll need Glacial Chasm in hand, Exploration, and Ramanep Excavator on the battlefield. Play Glacial Chasm. When Glacial Chasm enters the battlefield, its second ability triggers, causing you to sack another land you control. Play any land from your graveyard, and at the beginning of your next upkeep, Glacial Chasm's accumulative upkeep ability triggers, allowing you to choose to not to pay it and sacrifice it. When we do this, we can then play it from our graveyard, sack another land, replay that land, and then we'll make sure that we don't take any damage and we don't lose any life by repeating this process. That's going to be all for today's deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's definitely up there with my unusual builds, but it's always nice to try something new in a game that is as big as Magic. Let me know how I did, or tell me about your favorite fog in the comments below. Mine is Spore Frog. Subscribe or become a member today to let me sleep at night, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.